Okay, hi everyone. We are live this morning, and I can say morning for a very exciting reason that I'll say in a minute, but we are live this morning with Harry Thompson. So welcome, Harry.
Thank you for having me.
And what I was referring to before, the exciting fact, is we're actually in the same time zone, which does not happen very often. The exciting fact is we're actually...
That's cool. That was just Paul from the past.
That's cool. So turned off the sound. Perfect. So thanks everyone for joining us live. As you may have heard, Harry is one of the 30 speakers at this year's Autism from the Inside online summit. So we have over 20 international autistic speakers sharing their lived experience from a personal and professional lens. So that's a really exciting event. You can see that in the description. So today is just a bit of a casual chat. Harry's actually on holiday, which I'm a little bit jealous of. I don't get to go on holiday until a bit later. And we can chat about whatever we feel like.
Okay, then. Bring it on.
Bring it on. So I see a guitar in the background.
Yep.
How long have you been doing that?
I got my first guitar when I was 3, actually, but I didn't commit to it properly until I was 11. A vast collection of guitars in his attic, and I used to sneak up there and take them off their little holders on the wall, which I wasn't meant to do. And I was drawn to a bass guitar that I didn't know was a bass guitar at the time, and I would always take it off the wall and play it. And then one day he caught me in the act, but he was cool with it. He said, do you like it? I was like, yes, I really do. He's like, okay, well, why don't you take it home and see what you can do with it?
Okay.
And that's how it all started. And yeah, I pretty much play daily, and I have done ever since. But don't expect me to play right now, because we know that's not going to work.
Yeah, no worries. So that's fantastic that he responded in such a positive way.
Yeah, he did. And yeah, now I studied music. I didn't graduate, but it's always been important to me. But for me, it's therapeutic, it's relaxing, it's lulling and soothing. Whereas speaking and writing are a lot more stimulating to me. But no, I play every day. It's very important for me.
Yeah, I took up the drums in high school, which was really good. I didn't realize before that I was tapping on basically everything. I'm sure my family realized that I was doing that. So it was definitely good to have an outlet in that sense.
Of course, it's a stim. That's the thing. It's a good way around demand avoidance as well, because I noticed I was because there's a technique on bass guitar called slap, and I would tap everything with my thumbs constantly, and I never made the connection. It's absolutely a stim to strum, to play, to pluck, to slap.
Yeah, and some people sometimes ask me, do you ever get really angry and then go and play the drums? And actually the answer is no, never, because I have to be in control when I play the drums. So I can't just take the anger out on it. But different to anger is energy. So if I have a lot of energy, I can play some music that has a lot of energy that might sound angry to someone else, but not when you're concentrating playing it.
Yeah. No, it makes sense. Makes total sense. Yeah.
So what do you like to play on the guitar?
Oh gosh. It's easier to say what I don't like to play. I'm not a huge lover of thrash metal.
Yeah.
There are pretty much every single other genre I will at least try my hand in, so like modern stuff. I like, more classic stuff, rock, jazz, some classical music. I'll try and, work out. Heavy metal. It doesn't really matter. It's kind of, I don't discriminate based on genre. If I like it, I'll play it.
Yeah, I'm a bit the same in terms of music tastes, but I figured out a way to describe it. I often like complicated music.
All right. Yeah.
So
So stuff that's really technical and a bit fiddly, like intricate.
yeah, something that gives my brain something to wrap around.
Yeah.
And to notice and to see the complexity and things like that, which basically means everything except popular music.
Right. Yeah. No, yeah. I'm much more at home with older music, I think.
And has that like changed over the years or anything like that?
I'm not sure. As a PDA, I tend to have all of my interests in people. And so I may find that I hyper focus on a particular musician, like Freddie Mercury or Jim Morrison. And the result of which is that I'll end up burning through their catalogue and learning all of their songs. And it tends to work like that. So it really depends on who I'm interested in. And
Okay,
I was writing about this yesterday in my diary. I tend to hyper focus on about 5 songs at a time. And then there's not much leeway either side. And then I'll move on to, and then after a month, I'll move on to another 5 songs and another 5 songs. And that's been quite consistent across my life. But it's good though, because I hyper focus on them individually, that I will retain them. And so I can always come back to them and play them and think, oh yeah, I remember that. That's the song I was interested in October 2006, but that tends to be how it works. So it tends to be older stuff than newer stuff. I can be quite critical of new music. It depends on what it is.
Yeah, it's easy to be critical. It's all about taste, though, I find. I've always found that my tastes are not likely to be shared by that many other people.
Yeah.
So in some ways, it's fun to find others who happen to like what you like.
No, that's very true. And I've always found it difficult to establish musical soulmates with people, because there has never really been a tendency on my part to default to what's popular within the group. And so I noticed early on, no one wanted me to be the DJ at parties.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't just invest in music because it was popular. No. But I noticed at the same time that there was no common thread between the select 5 songs I would currently be very engrossed in, because there would be no thread whatsoever. One of them could be relatively modern and indie. One of them could be like a classic jazz song. Another one could be a Disney song. The other one could be, Moonlight Sonata. There was no common thread between them. I just thought, right, if I have an aesthetic reaction to the song, then it will be my song for a month or 2. It tends to be a month or 2 before suddenly the whole 5-song set develops into something else.
Yes, I sometimes wish I had an audience for my random selection of songs. Like I've literally got my list of MP3 and I set it to random, and it could be a classical song and then a heavy metal song and then like a song from a kids show from the 90s.
I think it's a very autistic way of approaching music. the concept of interests me very much. And my brother is a musician himself, but he's not autistic. And I noticed that my brother can adapt, and he has a more general interest in music, and he can sit there and listen to lots of songs and almost apply interest arbitrarily or consciously. Whereas I sit there thinking, I couldn't just listen to those songs. You know, when I used to find that a puzzling concept when I was younger. When people would just buy albums and listen to the whole thing, I could never do that, and I found that puzzling. I used to think, how can they just sit there and give it a go? You know,
if they didn't like it.
No, but I found, you know, it's probably I'm probably a person of extremes, but I can recall when people started dating, and I always found the concept of dating difficult. Like, oh, we're just seeing each other, we're seeing how it goes. I'm like, either you like them or you don't. You know, it's the same with playing music. Oh, I'm just listening to this album. I'm seeing how. Oh, I'm going to watch this film tonight. Why? Oh, because, you know, I've heard it's good. I can't relate to that. Either I like it or I don't. When it comes to aesthetics, when it comes to art, when it comes to music, whatever, I need to feel invigorated, wholly and absolutely. To me, there's no sense of trying it out, seeing how it goes. No. When I know, I know. So I can't sit there and arbitrarily listen to an album. Either I like the song or I don't. So I'm very all or nothing when it comes to art, but I'm a lot more grey when it comes to philosophy, thinking, you know.
Okay. There's a weird quirk here. I wonder if you can relate to, but the more popular something is, the harder it is for me to actually like it. It's like I really like it, and then suddenly everyone else really likes it, and I'm like, that's yesterday's news.
Right. So I remember when Breaking Bad came out, and it annoyed me so much, so profoundly. And I remember I was a student at the time, living with about 7 other people, and they would all routinely sit in the same room every night and watch it, and I would distance myself. I didn't want to go anywhere near it. I didn't want anyone to talk about it. And then when the hype died down, I smashed it out in a week, and I was like, yeah, that was really good, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. Someone's asking about synesthesia.
Yeah. Have you ever experienced that or similar?
Yeah, but I never knew it was synesthesia, because I can remember meeting people who would describe literally seeing music in the form of colors lifting off from someone playing the piano, and I never experienced it like that. But mine is a lot more mine's related to the connection between imagery and linguistics. So when people could throw a word at me, and my brain immediately effortlessly converts it into a random, almost cartoon or a sequence of images. So my sister's so I usually use this example. My sister's name makes me think of a leprechaun dressed in purple using a spider's web as a trampoline.
Okay.
The term, and certain words make me hungry. And any ood words to me are very powerful. So like crude, rude, dude. Those
food?
words. Not so much food.
Not food.
The softness of the F ruins it.
Okay.
It makes me think of the word rude. Makes me think of chiseling wood, and it's really nice. That sound.
Oh, yeah.
You know, not that I've chiseled lots of wood, but I can recall chiseling wood, and the noise and the experience was stimmy, and that makes me feel rude. The word crude makes me crave homemade soup with freshly baked bread. The term mental illness makes me crave scrambled eggs. So there are random ones, but it's usually just random words that people throw at me. So I don't know. It could be the word wardrobe makes me think of a red teddy bear dancing around, showing off a green bow tie. You know, so
it's
it
a
works.
very detailed image from one word.
No, but that's my form of synesthesia. So when I'm talking or writing, sometimes artists ask each other about their creative process, right? And I will say, right, well, I think something's gone wrong. I think I'm meant to be a painter, right? But there's a kind of cross wiring. So I can see often when I'm writing and speaking, the imagery is very strong in my head, but instead of transposing it onto a canvas, they turn into words. So what I feel like I'm doing is I feel like I'm grabbing the images and feeding them through a tunnel through which they turn into words. So the images appear very effortlessly. So if someone throws a word at me, if it's the reversal, if someone throws a word at me, immediately I see a picture right there, right then. So the word glasses comes into my head, a lake of tulips immediately.
Okay, crazy.
But when I'm talking and writing, it's a process of word. Now let's image. Let's feed it through the tube. Then it turns into words.
And I don't think you're describing like the words that come out are not describing the image, are they?
I don't think I've actually pondered or meditated on this enough. It makes more sense when the images are turned into words. It makes more sense when that happens. But some like if onomatopoeic words like splash, that's very splash, or slosh. No, slosh is a horrible one. I don't want to sit. Some of them are the onomatopoeic words sound like what they are, but when it's image to word, when it's word to image, completely random, doesn't make any sense. When it's image to word, they make more sense.
Okay.
I tend to arrive at words through feeling and imagery. But that's that.
Yeah, because when you were describing it first, I thought, oh, that sounds like visual thinking, but glasses to a field of tulips, lake of tulips.
Lake of tulips, like a lake, but it's just stuffed with tulips.
That strikes me as a huge amount of creativity there.
Yeah, I'm very interested in the big 5 personality dimensions. People who tend to be creative score very high in trait openness, like 90 plus. And I think that I'm about to embark upon a little research project with the purpose of ascertaining that PDA essence that we like to speak about. And I feel that PDAs are autistic, they're ADHD, and a few of us think there are definitely personality components present as well, right? So the PDA is, someone says they're 97 in openness. Yeah, so am I. The demand avoidance isn't just about not doing things. There is a very artistic approach to demand avoidance. There are excuses that are otherworldly, abstract, creative, inventive, random, surreal that the PDAs will use in order to get out of doing things. There's a tendency to withdraw into fantasy and role play and kind of live in a world fuzzy, quaint, and detached from reality. There is a tendency for the individual to be uber high in openness, and there is something artistic about other parts of PDA in that I often talk about how to do is a sacred act. I can't just do arbitrarily, half-heartedly because someone else insists. No, the very action, the very process of doing has to be approached artistically as well. I have to be in the flow as I'm doing, and there is a state of becoming, and there is someone saying, what's PDA? It stands for, well, we prefer to say pervasive drive for autonomy, or pathological demand avoidance. It's an autistic profile. And early researchers would talk about the PDA difficulty with establishing an identity. And that's a very creative thing, right? Creative people have a difficulty establishing one consistent identity. So I think creativity and high openness is probably very much a PDA thing, but we're about to start a little research project into that, so stay tuned. But yeah, anyway, we were saying something else, going off on tangents as well. Yes, creativity, absolutely.
Yeah, because I never used to think of myself as particularly creative until I expanded my understanding of what that word could mean.
Yeah.
And now I realize that I don't really paint. I don't really create music. I don't really, but all of those kind of traditional things. But what I do is I create systems and I design, like the design process is really a creative process. So I ended up being an engineer, right? And ended up doing some, design sort of work with that. It was a little bit more optimization than design, which is a type of design, I suppose, but a little bit different. But I really love synthesizing everything, all of the chaos into something that people can still recognize the chaos in.
Of course. Yeah. I like that. I like the way you put that.
So synesthesia for me, I wouldn't say so. It's actually a really interesting concept, because when people talk like that, I see the colors coming out of the piano or whatever. It sounds like a metaphorical expression of the experience.
Yeah.
And there's nothing to make, like, if you don't experience it yourself, there's nothing to make you think, oh, the person is actually seeing the colors. It's almost like an as if metaphorical kind of statement.
Yeah, I guess so. I think that's the beauty of it, really. You're living in a world of metaphors. It's not just it's living in a world of tangible metaphors, I think, which is what makes it so incredibly magical. It's not just reading about it, reading parables or allegories, where a teacher may explain to you, yeah, well, it's just figurative, it exists, it's true symbolically. But no, there is a sense of, gosh, reality is the world of symbols, in a sense, to the synesthetic mind. The world of symbols is real, it's tangible. I'm watching it happen. It's right here. So it's, yeah.
And if you take that a little bit backwards, I hope you understand when I finish the sentence. You were describing seeing actual images, whereas I see the pattern and the metaphor and the allegory immediately. Right. It's not as an image as such, but it is the pattern that I can't really extricate from the experience, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So again, I wouldn't have thought of that in the same category, but it's kind of a little bit similar if you
no, definitely, I think
expand it out a little bit.
Yeah, I believe so. I think it's important to, as you said before, broaden our understanding of creativity in that regard. And then when we do that, we find that, oh wow, lots else is factored into all of this. Philosophy, essentially, and scholarly creativity. I realized that that's what I do. I didn't. Some people say, oh, are you an academic? You a scientist? I'm like, no. I'm a creative. it just looks like I'm an academic on the outside. I'm not. Well, I am a bit, but I wouldn't call myself a researcher or an academic. What I do is called scholarly creativity. You know, I came across that term when I started doing what I'm doing. It's kind of, and you know, I remember writing poems, and I remember I always did it mechanically. I always did it intellectually. I could do it, and I think I could somehow, work my way around, rhymes and verse and application of vocabulary. But I was always writing poems mechanically. And then when I started coming up with my own concepts like tabletops and table legs, the PDA current, primary, secondary activities, fixed safety points, I thought, what is this? And I had a chat with someone. They said, what you're doing is scholarly creativity. I'm like, oh, yes. And that's so, I love that because it's so niche and it's so.
I haven't really come across that term before, but it sounds nice.
Oh, it's lovely.
Can you, for those of us who haven't heard that term, what strikes you about that word scholarly creativity?
I think it's the marriage between academia and creativity, right? So I apply my focus to areas of academia, but it's the process of taking what you read and then putting your own spin on it in a way, or coming up with, coming up with original terminology to describe experience. So it's very much related to phenomenology as well, another great word, which essentially is the study of direct experience, useful for advocates who are doing that all the time. Phenomenology is where psychology meets philosophy, I suppose, right? And within that, one can experience scholarly creativity in that I will observe phenomena, and then I will use all sorts of different tools, frameworks, and hypotheses to explain it. So, like my tabletop table leg theory would be based on, I recognize demands are best approached or regarded as the means, not as the end. If I put the demands into context, then they make more sense. They become stepping stones. If brushing my teeth is the be all and end all, the end point, the end goal, it can't be done. But if I recognize that as a speaker and an advocate, I can derive my bliss and experience my flow within that, then this would represent an activity within which there is no compromise, and it wouldn't be a matter of doing a talk, it would be a matter of becoming the talk. So there is natural gravity here. And if there's natural gravity, I'll be sucked into it. I won't have to meet a demand to do it. If an activity has natural gravity, you're sucked into it. Like when the little kids play video games all day. And so brushing my teeth can become a stepping stone towards that, because I will always strive to fall into the gravitational pull of speaking and advocating. Now, if I recognize that my teeth start falling out because I don't brush them, if I don't have teeth, I am cut off from advocating and speaking because I need teeth to bloody do that. So then brushing my teeth becomes what I call the table leg that props up the tabletop, which is giving a talk. So if it's used as a table leg, it can be done. But if people tell me that brushing teeth is a tabletop, no, I can't do that.
Do you ever experience imposter syndrome?
Yeah, I do. Not as much. I had to think about that then. It definitely pops up. Yeah, it definitely pops up. Let me think. So where do I feel imposter syndrome? I think all of this stuff happened really quickly for me. And beforehand, I was very used to things not working out. I was used to being fired. I was used to walking out on jobs. I was used to things just not working out. And this lifestyle works out. And so I feel, oh God, do I deserve this? And also something else that I think is very interesting that I've spoken to lots of neurodivergent people about is I think we come to associate work with this impossibly hard slog that requires a most debilitating degree of self-sacrifice, self-punishment, self-torture. It can only be work if I am torturing myself. Now, my work is fun, enjoyable, and almost effortless. So I feel like this isn't right. Am I really working, or am I wasting my time? Is this a bit of a DOS? Am I? So even though
is it actually this is not torture? It cannot possibly be work.
Yeah. So it's how do I put it? So, but I'm exploring this concept as well of effort and self-discipline within a demand avoidant context. I recognize that there is effort, there is self-discipline, but because the role is suffused with meaning and joy, and yes, this is right, it mitigates the feeling of hard work. The feeling of hard work has been into a pleasurable thing. So I can work very, very hard, but I am being restored by the nourishing nature of the role. Whereas before we are lucky enough to work within our flow, there is no restoration. It's just hard work, and hard work to the point of self-sabotage. And so if we associate work with that, by the time we come to work within our flow, I notice this feeling of imposter syndrome. Like, hang on a minute, do I deserve this? Do I deserve that? Do I deserve this opportunity? So that's where I feel a lot of my imposter syndrome.
Yeah, shouldn't I be working?
No, that's what I mean. I'm not even working anymore, right? This is easy, this stuff,
Yeah, and even creative stuff requires effort and discipline and all of those things that we commonly associate with work.
Yeah.
Even if it's fun at the same time.
But you're being fueled. There's this sense of, because if we think about it, as creative people, we know what it's like to experience inertia within the creative endeavor. And I'm not going to go to sleep. I'm not going to eat. I'm not going to move from this spot until I've completed what I set out to complete. So there is a fuck ton of sorry. There's a
sorry, internet.
There is a hell of a lot of effort that goes into this. And you can feel, it's like, wow, it's weird because I'm aligned within this activity. I'm being fueled by the meaningfulness. I'm being fueled by everything. And therefore, this is doable and it's purposeful and it's enjoyable. But then you can't do that outside of your flow without just grinding to a miserable halt. So that's a weird one to kind of change my mindset on. Like, no, this is fine. This is work and it's meaningful. And
I think it's a bit of a historical concept as well, that you need a PhD in something to talk about it as an expert.
I don't know my remit. I think I'm a psychologist.
And so I think the concept of scholarly creativity, because it's not research as such, it's not, I mean, if you look at how much tedious, dedicated work goes into scientific research, it takes you years to justify saying one sentence.
Yeah.
Whereas I find the creativity part, it just wants to move so much quicker and be so much freer than that. And like, how can I say something that's true, even if I haven't spent 3 years proving it's true? How about I say it first, and then if it's important enough, then we can spend 3 years proving it's true later.
Yeah. Right. I think it's a tricky one. Some people are natural musicians, and most very successful musicians in the contemporary pop, rock, rap world, they didn't study music at a postgrad level, most of them. But we understand what it is to be a natural musician, someone who has a flair for composition and has an ear whereby they're able to work out the structure of a song just by listening. But I do believe the same applies to psychology, but this is more hazardous ground to tread upon. I think some people are naturally intuitive and have a knack for grasping the abstract yet intricate world of human behavior and psychology. I think some people do have a knack and a inclination in that area, but it's very difficult. You can't just allow these people to set up their own private practice and do therapy. So it's there seems to be a glaring distinction between being a natural psychologist and being a natural musician. The amount of musicians, the Beatles, Red Hot Chili Peppers, who couldn't tell you a single note on the guitar. They don't know which chords they're playing. They don't understand what they're doing on a technical, theoretical level. And yet the sound is just immense, magical. And it's the same with people who are naturally good at psychology. I notice people intuitively working out Freud's theory of psychodynamics, and they're not necessarily labeling it the superego, the id, and the ego. They've got their own terminology for it, and they've worked it out for themselves. I see a lot of PDAs doing that, and that's what made me think about all of this. Like, lots of these people are natural psychologists, but what are they going to do? Because they're never going to study at a PhD level, and they're perhaps never going to be able to experience. I mean, they could set up their own private practice, but there's something questionable about that. There's something unethical. There are unethical overtones and undertones there. I think it's just that this is just an invitation to have a conversation about what we're going to do about natural psychologists in an ethical way.
There seems to be a transient element to it where it's not necessarily something that should be written in stone and studied for the next 500 years, but there's like the intellectual element, and then there's the human element of this is true right here, right now. And you can kind of see that. You were talking about the music stuff. My favorite example of that, there's an Aboriginal artist in Australia, Gurrumul Wunapingu, and he's blind, and I think he plays the guitar left-handed and upside down. And
oh man,
he's most known for his voice, though. But there was a movie made about him, and like if you see how he was in those early days of just sort of sitting in the back of the band with the guitar upside down, but the truth and emotion that he captures, I mean, he doesn't sing in English, sings in half a dozen different Aboriginal languages, but not in English. And even without the language, understanding the language, it's still been so powerful for so many people.
Yeah. Of course. Some people just have it in them, and it can't be touched externally. I remember being in music school, watching all the greatest musicians drop out like flies, perhaps because they could not bear to have what was to them such a profoundly personal connection to music be approached from the outside in the form of an academic discipline. So yeah, and it's the same. We have music theory, we have psychological theory. You can learn it at an intellectual level, but there's a difference between learning it at an intellectual level and just experiencing it as just a fundamental part of who you are.
And that's exactly what creativity is.
Yes.
Because you can't learn creativity. You learn the structure and then you create with it.
Yeah. Exactly.
So those kind of structures and systems, it's the opposite of creativity.
Well, that's it.
I mean, we do need it at the same time. Like creativity needs structure too, but
yeah, I think that's interesting. And I think about that as a PDA-er, how we can build more of a symbiotic relationship with structure. It's not just I'm PDA fucks. Yeah, I'm not good. Yeah, exactly. Language codes around radio or whatever. But we can work with structure for sure. It can enhance the experience. I'm just having a look through the comments.
Oh yeah.
Oh, so were you going to ask something?
Yeah, I had a question. What does structure look like in your life?
It's loose, because I know that if it's applied too rigorously, I will wriggle my way out of it. But
yeah.
So, for example, there are certain things I do like to do every day, but I would never do them in a particular order. I would never do them at a particular time. There are certain things I like to do, and I will approach them when I need to, but it would never be born out of any kind of random contrived decision. Like, I think it's about time I sat down and played the piano or the guitar. I think it's about time I sat down and wrote a diary entry. No, there's nothing like that. That is just an invitation for demands. For if it's going for a run, I like the run to be preceded by an upwelling of excited energy. Maybe that is induced by listening to a song that is particularly rousing, and I notice myself pacing around the room, and at that point I say to myself, this is running time, right? It's running time when my body, my mind, and my sensations say it is, not when I say it is. I think that's one of the many paradoxes of PDA. If I say it's time for a run, it's not time for a run. PDA to me is about proximity. It's about recognizing that I will resist whatever is not within my immediate vicinity. And I notice that I can do things when I'm on the same level as them. So I can feel in my body when it's time for a run, because I can't stop moving. And that's it's the same with doing household chores. We have to find what I call the intrinsic motive. So if it's not about cleaning the apartment because it needs a clean, that's an extrinsic motive. I instead find that, I don't like the look of that cat paw print on the desk. So it's a matter of removing that from the desk and then seeing another one and removing that. And before you realize it, you have actually cleaned the desk. cleaning the desk was a byproduct. It wasn't the intention. So you notice that a lot of the demands get done indirectly. So, oh, I noticed that through expending all of this excited energy, I went for a run, rather than running being the that which is directly approached.
Now, if that were me, I would be planning and scheming and optimizing and trying to figure out how best to set myself up for being in the mood at the right time.
Yeah, I wouldn't have those conversations.
No, but so do you deliberately, like, do you have the thought, oh, maybe I'll go for a run, so I'll put on some energy music, or how does it come about to do it so regularly?
Because if it's regular, it means there is a natural need for it, rather than me trying to bring about a natural need, which would be forcing a need, which wouldn't work. It means there's no need. So if I say to myself, it's time to sit down and play the piano, there is no organic urge to play the piano. I'm compensating through thought and decision, which totally wreaks havoc upon living in the flow, because living in the flow does not entail, right, time to do this, time to do that, time to do this, time to do that. No arbitrary structure brought about by contrivance can serve as the optimal fuel for the PDA. And now people might say, "What? Hang on, Harry, but the world doesn't work like that. You can't just flit about, you can't." And sometimes it's difficult, and I'll run into problems. But for the most part, it's a matter of constant reminders. And yeah, there is a natural urge to run daily, but I would not take control of it. I would allow the natural urge to run daily to do its own thing and trust in it, and it will appear when it needs to appear. It's like waiting for a certain bird to migrate or something. You can't, like, come on, it's spring. You better get to or whatever. No, let nature take care of it. PDA is about submitting to nature in many ways. You submit to nature. The moment your mind gets involved with arbitrary and decision making, you're in trouble. But in the same breath, we are in receipt of arbitrary structure and decision making from society. So it's very hard to find your balance. And I'm training for the marathon at the moment, and I keep not running. It's really annoying, I keep not running, and I'm always trying to, right, come on, how can I find it again? Because I'm like, I've got to train, and then I don't train. It's hard. It's very hard. It's a mindset that you have to slip into.
You're reminding me of another one of the summit speakers that we have. Her name is Miriam Rose, and she's an Aboriginal teacher here in Australia. And her main thing is there is a right time for everything, and we have to listen, just like you're saying, and to the seasons and to everything, and there's right time. So we will probably wrap up soon-ish. I mean, we don't have a deadline, so we can keep going. But just as a reminder for everyone watching, Harry is a speaker at this upcoming Autism from the Inside online summit. There's a link to that free event in the description, coming up on the 19th of September. There were a couple of quick questions in the chat. Did you want me to read them out?
Yeah, sure.
So two very quick questions. One, do you also have ADHD?
Yes.
How are you listening to static on the radio? Is that hard for you? Like
right now?
Radio static? No, I think just in general.
I've never thought about this. I have ear problems, so sometimes I get a bit of tinnitus, so I'm kind of used to it. It's a similar sound. it's not. It's okay. I think I'm a bit neutral towards that. Not my favorite sound, not the worst sound. You know, it's all right. It's a fact of life.
Yeah, not a major thing.
No.
I have a question.
Yeah.
What are some of the what are you looking forward to in Australia?
Well, I've got a surfing lesson later today.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I kind of ranted about surfing the other day, saying there's almost something conceited about, oh, look at me, I'm standing on the sea. And yeah, I'm about to be a hypocrite because I'm going to stand on the sea later. Maybe I'm a bit bitter because I've not done it and I can't. I've done it once, but I couldn't stand up. So we'll see. So there's lots of exciting things about Australia. There's lots of similarities that I'm noticing. There's a fish and chip restaurant around the corner, you know. And people use lots of English words like crikey or nicked, you know. So it's wonderful. I love the climate. I'm in Queensland at the moment, and yeah, the people are really, really friendly. I am also going to the Australia Zoo tomorrow that Steve Irwin's parents started. I need to see a koala and a kangaroo. There's lots of cool stuff that I've already done and I'm going to do. And it's actually nice to have a break, have a holiday, go to the beach and chill and swim and enjoy the beautiful scenery. So yeah, and I'm still running, and the running routes are really lovely here. Honestly, it's all good.
You must be far enough south not to have to worry about crocodiles.
Well, I don't know. No one's told me.
No one's told me I can't swim. So good.
Yeah, well, I explained that to my friend. I said, we just swim out to sea in England. At least we do where I'm from. So yeah, people are having to say, Harry.
There are a lot of very, very nice beaches further south in Queensland, and ironically, the further north you get, the nicer they look, and the more dangerous, and the less you can actually go out and swim in them.
Yeah, of course. No, but it's my first time in Australia, and I'm having a very good time. It's a wonderful country.
Oh, surfing sounds fun. Something tells me it won't be the first time that you've made yourself a hypocrite.
Yeah,
saying something and then going against exactly what you just said.
Yeah, I tend to just I'm all guns blazing with my opinions before I've actually experienced it, and then I try it. I'm like, oh, that was quite nice.
Really good, yeah. Okay, well, we might wrap up there then, I think.
Sure, that's fine.
But thanks so much for taking a little bit of time out of your holiday to just speak to us. Hopefully it was fun for you as well.
Yeah, it was really enjoyable. I enjoyed it. Thank you. Thanks for everyone for tuning in. Oh yeah, you can find me on Harry Thompson, PDA Extraordinaire, TikTok, Harry Thompson, PDA Extraordinaire, Instagram, Harry Thompson, PDA Extraordinaire, YouTube, Harry Thompson. PDA without the extraordinaire.
Oh. No, okay.
Yeah, you can. You know what? Just check, and my website www.harryjackthompson.com. Yeah.
There are not many Harry Thompson PDAs in the world, so it's pretty easy to find.
Pretty easy to find, yeah. Okay. Well, thanks for having me, Paul.
Okay. Thanks.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.